We concluded the class with the bottom line. God, with all of his vastness, is inside of me. And the tremendous joy that that thought can elicit any moment. Those two, and something that can be very personal, but really if you think, now that you know what it means, maybe more than you did before, or were reminded of what you knew, and to think the Rebbe wants me to think about this every single day. And for some reason, it's very significant because there are lots of thoughts in Tanya, but this is what the Rebbe is selecting for me to think about every single day. So just to continue in our few remaining moments, so now the Rebbe is giving a metaphor, not a deep one to explain a deep Hasidic concept, but rather to resonate this idea of the joy you feel when you get it. When you get what God is, when you get what you are, when you get that relationship, when you get that connection, when you get that God is inside of you. Imagine the joy of a commoner, Shifal Anashim, not just a commoner, a real commoner, a person. When this human being will come close to another human being, a king. The whole world is focusing on the idea of sovereignty now, right? We're living with the times. So imagine this human getting close to another human, but someone who has a royal rank. But we don't just mean like you're on the street and there's a parade, so you can tell your grandchildren, you saw the queen or the king. We don't just mean you were one of those invited into the palace, so you're standing somewhere in the back of the royal room. No, something very unusual happened. The king is now with you. Sarah spoke before about the king in the fields. The king is not just in the field. He came to your hut. The king came into your house, which means in essence, your house is now the palace, because your house is now the residence, this moment, of the king. Imagine the joy, the awe, the specialness of this person, this very common person who, for whatever reason, the king is living within his house, in your own house. And that's a human being. That's a human, and ultimately that king is also a human. The kal v'chaymer. So how much more so, le'en kates, if we stretch this to infinity, lekirvas v'diras melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. If we're talking about the residence of the real king, of the ultimate king, of God, as is written, ki mihu zeh asher arav libo lageshes elai me'om Hashem. Who is the one who dares to come close to me? Thus says God. So God says, who's going to dare to come close to God? And yet that God, that who could dare come close to him, is now in your house. In your house. He's in your heart. He's in your mind. He's inside of you. You are the home for God. Of course, ultimately, the idea is a dwelling below, the redemption, when the whole world is God's home. But at this moment, this second, and God willing, we should have that ultimate redemption also tonight. But at this moment, where is God's home? Where does he have space to be revealed? In your mind, in your heart, in your soul. You're God's home. So when a person thinks about this, understanding again all the steps the Rebbe built to this idea, God's vastness, a vastness beyond our comprehension. God's relationship to creation, also something beyond our comprehension. And that God, with his vastness, with his beyond relationship to comprehension, is inside of me. In my mind, in my heart, in my soul, I am his home. I am his abode. I am his palace. Within me, he fulfills the reason for all creation, temporarily. Redemption is like the big time real deal. But at this moment, God wanted a dwelling in the physical. And when you open your mind and your heart to God, you are giving him a home in the physical. His desire for creation is fulfilled at this moment within you, within me, within each one of us. If you realize what you're accomplishing, life doesn't seem so drab and blah. As Goldie said, it doesn't seem so lonely. It doesn't seem so depressing or meaningless. And that's why the Rebbe said this is an existential concept. This is a reason for existence. And this gives meaning to every day that you might otherwise process as drab, as not going anywhere, not accomplishing anything, nobody paying attention to you. What are you doing? Every little detail, you're giving God more space. You're giving him another feeling of aha. Creation has been actualized within you, any moment, every single day. That's the idea. And hopefully, again, we've got more metaphors coming, but hopefully that sort of made it like, oh, wow, I could apply that. And it would make a difference every single day. So tonight is the 19th of Elul. And as I said earlier, the 19th of Elul is a very, very special day on the Hasidic calendar. It's a day celebrated as just a day among the Hasidic communities, not per se Chabad Hasidus, but all of the Hasidic communities. It's a day of enormous joy because it's the day of the birth of the Baal Shem Tov. And in the Chabad Hasidic community, we have not only the focus on the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, but also on the founder of Chabad Hasidus, 2 generations after the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya that we are focused on, which means the one that we're connecting to, because as we said, a tzaddik, when a Jew on this level is writing something, we're not reading something he wrote. We're really getting him. Just as God puts himself in his writings, and as we study the Torah, it's not cerebral, it's not intellectual, it's that too. But more significantly, we're getting God. And when we study the writings, the works of the tzaddik, we're getting the tzaddik within his writings. So all of us, if you're aware of it or not, have a deep relationship with the Alter Rebbe, whose birthday energy is shining today. Now, this goes back a long time. The Baal Shem Tov was born in 1698, when he was 26 on this day, meaning we're going to now 1724. That's when Achia Hashiloni, when it was decreed in heaven that a very great Jew from thousands of years before, someone that actually left with the Exodus and then lived for hundreds of years, a prophet of the Jews named Achia Hashiloni, he was sent down to this world as a soul to instruct, to mentor the Baal Shem Tov. Beginning on this day, the 18th of Elul, he did that for 10 years, from when the Baal Shem Tov was 26 until he was 36. And then again, on this day, when he was 36, that was in, I guess that point would be 1734. And then he was told, you got to go out. Until now, for 10 years, you've been leading the secret righteous and your secret group of disciples. You've been covert. You've been mingling with the common Jew and encouraging them and uplifting them and telling them stories to bring them to faith of God, to awe of God, to a relationship with God. Now it's time to go out to the world. Again, when did that happen? Today, the 18th of Iyar. And then in 1745, the Alter Rebbe was born. And again, so much about the birth of the Alter Rebbe, we don't have time to say, but also such an enormous joy that actually 3 years before he was born, the Baal Shem Tov was already celebrating. Because the Baal Shem Tov, it's very interesting. We're told that when a soul comes down into this world, he needs about a year to prepare. The soul prepares for a year before entering this world. When a new soul enters, which is almost never, it takes 3 years. So 3 years before the Alter Rebbe was born, because Alter Rebbe was a new soul that was never here before, for 3 years before, the Baal Shem Tov knew a new soul was coming to this world. And for 3 years, the Baal Shem Tov was working to facilitate the Alter Rebbe's entrance into this world on his birthday. So much, much more to say. We're not going to talk about the history of it, but just to understand the concept. Originally, it's so interesting because we're so small and we know so little. But we know everything I just told you. You don't know it? No problem. You could Google it. You could read some books. It's all accessible in any language you want. For years, this date was a secret holiday. Nobody knew about it. The leaders, the Rabbeim of Chabad, they celebrate it secretly. But Tzemach Tzedek was the first one to talk about it, and that was to his sons. And he swore them to secrecy. He said, you can't tell anyone. He warned them very, 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 very strongly. They couldn't divulge this information. And yet, as the generations went on, we, very small people, we are being told the secrets because we need it now. And because the redemption is coming, so all the secrets are coming out. So this secret, the energy of this day, we know. What's the energy of this day? With the birth of the Baal Shem Tov, with the process of the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov, with the birth of the Alter Rebbe, actually the first day of learning in the yeshiva of Chabad, of Lubavitch, established by the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab. It's Chayus. Chai. The 18th, of course, we know is Chai, is life. This is Chayus. This is a day to rejuvenate our service to God, to give life to our service. And that's why we're starting now the countdown to Rosh Hashanah. Of course, we began that countdown on the 1st of Elul. And actually, from the 15th of Av, we start wishing people a good, sweet new year. And from the 1st of Elul, we're supposed to be reflecting on the past and reflecting on the future. And every day of Elul is for that same day for an entire year, past and future. But now it's getting closer. From today until Rosh Hashanah, 12 days for the 12 months, past and future. Why can it start today? Because we got life. Of course, Hashem has been smiling at us already for 17 days. Hashem has been pouring compassion on us for 17 days. But, you need to step up the act a bit. We need chayus. We need life. We need to recharge, and especially to recharge in our relationship to God that we get through Hasidus. Tanya, what we study is Hasidus. What is Hasidus? There's a very famous talk of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, very long, amazing how the people comprehended it as he said it. But we can study it. It's written, pages and pages, very, very amazing dissertation. What is Hasidus? Hasidus is the light of God unboxed. All of Torah is the light of God. Every aspect of Torah is God's light, but within boxes. And the boxes obscure, the boxes conceal, the boxes constrict the God within the boxes. But Hasidus is God's light, never before given to this world, without any boxes. Totally unboxed, and therefore totally accessible. Which means to us, when we come Tuesday night, for all these wonderful people that managed to do this, I would never do it if I wasn't giving the class. So this is amazing to have that discipline to stop. And maybe you have dishes or other things calling your name, but you're coming and you're studying and you're getting real deal Hasidic thought. This is God's light without the veils, without the boxes, without any obscuring of his energy. And every time we take it in, it's actually the energy that will resurrect the dead. What is that dew? We're told there's a dew that will resurrect the dead. That dew is the dew of the Torah of Hasidic thought. What we're studying and what's coming to full glory tonight and tomorrow, full energy. That's the dew that resurrects the dead. So imagine here you are, you're like, well, I'm alive, right? But imagine every time you imbibe the dew of resurrection, imagine the life it's supposed to give you. Hopefully it does give you. Hopefully you feel it. If not, now that you know about it, you might tune in more. You're getting life. You're getting resurrection life every time you study Hasidic thought. And tonight's energy and tomorrow's energy is to celebrate that life and to do something more with that life and to feel recharged and revitalized, alive and moving because you've got this life inside of you. Who are you? You're the people bringing redemption. And that's why God's doing it. As the famous metaphor of crushing the crown, the metaphor of the Alter Rebbe, whose energy is tonight, crushing the crown, stone of the crown of the king to revive the child. Spilling all of God's secrets to wake us up, to give us life, to give us energy, to give us a sense that we're alive in our relationship to God. It changes, the Rebbe says, it changes man, it changes the world, and it even changes Torah itself. And that's the power we have tonight. So it's really good to tap into it, to do something different because of it, do something inside yourself, do something with someone else, do something with the world, because that's the energy you can channel. You can channel it any day. But tonight and tomorrow, it's even more accessible. It's high power voltage light that you can channel, that you can absorb, not harmful. Only something to give you the energy to change yourself and to change the world and to bring redemption. So that's tonight's night, and that's why I'm so excited to do this class tonight. And we usually